Hare Krishna, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our program Srimad Bhagavatam study. In this program, we are doing a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam. By systematic study, I mean we start from the first canto, first chapter, first verse, and then in a flow, we continue to study the verse in detail, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, canto by canto. So our journey has already completed 75 classes. Today we are on the 76th class, and our study journey has now reached to the ninth chapter of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, sorry, it is actually not reached to the ninth canto. It is still on the eighth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are going to conclude the eighth canto today, and that is what this screen will tell you. So, in the previous class, we had already covered till the 23rd verse of the eighth chapter. And in this class, we are going to continue our discussion from the 24th chapter, conclude the 8th chapter till the 29th verse. That is the last verse of the 8th chapter. And then we'll begin the fresh chapter today, which is the ninth chapter. So the title of the 8th chapter is Questions by Parikshit Maharaj. And in the previous class, we kind of saw that Parikshit Maharaj actually presents a full big list of questions to Shukdev Goswami. So he is going to ask about, please speak Srimad Bhagavatam to me. And before he makes that request, he gives a long list of questions to Shukdev Goswami. So we'll discuss that. But let us first of all start with Mangalacharan prayer by Rakesh Prabhu.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्योत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Thank you.
Very nice, Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you very much for your excellent recitation of the prayers. Now we move to the next part, which is the recap of the previous class. This was supposed to be done by Manish Prabhu. For some reasons, he will not be able to join the class today, and he requested me to present the summary of the previous class. Uh, so now the summary of the previous class is not very difficult to present and can be summarized maybe in one line, which is that in the previous class we kind of discussed the list of questions which Parikshit Maharaj has presented before Shukdev Goswami. So in the discussion between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj at the end of Canto 1, Parikshit Maharaj had asked this question, please can you elaborate, sir, what is the duty of a dying man? That is the primary question that he asked. And in the beginning of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj was given this answer by Shukdev Goswami, that duty of dying man is actually hearing about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, and remembering the Lord. Smarta, Shrotavya, and Kirtitavya. So three things: hearing, chanting, and remembering. Now, in between, the discussion went a little bit elsewhere, where there was a discussion about creation and so on. But after all that, now Parikshit Maharaj is once again eager to hear Hari Katha, Krishna Katha. So, in order to ask Shukdev Goswami to start narrating him the Hari Katha, he kind of lists a long list of questions before Shukdev Goswami. So, he was eager to hear Bhagavatam and wanted to establish the philosophical basis of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, he asked lots of philosophical questions, and a long list of questions was presented, something like a big question paper in an exam. Now, as part of this recap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly list down that question. Uh, we'll show you the verse number, and in that verse, what question was asked. We'll read that, and that should be sufficient enough as a recap, in my opinion. So it starts from verse number 7. So first question that he asks is, what is the cause behind Jiva who attains material body despite being spiritual? So why Jiva attains this material body? Although he is spiritual in nature, but why the body he attains is material in nature? Second question was, what is the difference between the Lord and Jiva as both has a body? So the second question is that although both the Jiva has a body and the Lord also, just now while you were explaining the process of creation, has a body in the shape, in the form of Virat Purusha. So both has a body, but then what is the difference? If both the Jiva also has a body and the Lord also has a body as Virat Purusha, what exactly is the difference between the two? So this is verse number 8, the question number 2. So answer to both these questions will be given by Shukdev Goswami in chapter 9 in the beginning only. Then verse number 9 is the form of Lord like body of Brahma? Question number 4 is verse number 10. Describe the place where this Purusha, who is in everyone's heart, lies down. So a lot of discussion had happened about Purusha Avatar and so on, Virat Purusha and so on. Now he's asking, uh, where does he lie down? Then explain more about Virat Purusha, as his limbs are equated with planets. So we have seen, while describing the process of creation, it is mentioned that uh, the different planets are actually the limbs of Virat Purusha. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that topic? Is the question that Parikshit Maharaj is asking. Then verse number 12, the question is about what is Kalpa, what is Vikalpa, how the time is perceived in various ages and planets. So this is questions about Kala. Kala means time. And what is the lifespan of human beings and demigods? Then in question number 13 and 14, what are the various uh, divisions of time and how various karmic activities lead to various bodies? So like we gave you the analogy that like in this world also, there are many prosperous countries and there are different visa requirements for different countries. So if a country is very prosperous, there are many people who strive to go to that country, and the visa requirements are very stringent in that country. So similarly, how do various karmic activities lead to various bodies? Then creation of various places in this universe and their inhabitants. Then another question was, what is the dimension of this universe? What are the characteristics of this universe? What are the characteristics and activities of various devotees? Please also tell me about Varnashrama, characteristics of Varnashrama. So all this is going to be answered in 5th canto and 7th canto and 11th canto. 17th verse, the question asked is, please tell me about the characteristics of yugas. What is yuga dharma? What are the various yuga avatars? What are their activities? 18th question is about, please tell me about sadharan dharma. Sadharan dharma means religion or duty of a person in normal circumstances. Then what is savishesh dharma? Savishesh dharma means for specific individuals, are there any specific duties? This is mainly talking about varnashram and so on. And then what is apad dharma? Apad dharma means apada means emergency. So in emergency situation, what is the duty of a person? So this is going to be answered in the seventh canto. Then verse number 19, the question asked is, uh, please can you explain me the Sankhya philosophy? What are the rules of worship for the Purusha avatars? What is Yoga Mishra Bhakti? And so on. Now this is going to be discussed in various cantos like third canto, fourth canto, 11th canto, and so on. Then verse number 20 asks this question, what is the opulence, destination, and destruction of the subtle body of the great yogis and devotees? And what are the conclusion of the Vedas, Upavedas, Itihasas, and Puranas? 21 verse asks several questions. How the deliverance from samsara is for all living entities? What is favorable and unfavorable to bhakti? What are the procedures for artha, dharma, and kama? Then in the 22nd verse, reappearance of jiva after pralaya, creation of pashandis and existence of nitya siddhas, like that. And ultimately in verse number 23 he asks the final question in the list, how Lord performed various leelas using yoga maya and then disappearing without any attachment. Like that, you can see a long list of questions have been asked. In the previous class, we kind of try to understand the question. I try to understand a little background behind the question and so on, just to get a more detailed understanding of the question itself. And in the class today, we are now going to proceed with the last two sections of this chapter. So 7 to 23 are the questions by Parikshit Maharaj. Now 24th to 26 and 27 to 29, the chapter further continues. In 24 to 26, Parikshit will inspire Shukdev Goswami to speak further. And in 27 to 29th verse, Shukdev Goswami will conclude this discussion. So let us go to that part. So 24th verse. So we will start our discussion from today on 24th verse. Any volunteers for reading the text on the slide? Today there is no.
Prabhuji? Hare
Okay.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Charumati Mataji will read, and maybe one more name.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I am
Okay.
also.
Vrindavaneshwari Mataji will also read. Okay. So we will go to Charumati Mataji. Mataji, please read the text. Thank you.
Parikshit inspires Sukadev Goswami to speak. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection.
So Parikshit is asking Shukdev Goswami to kindly answer all the questions that he has just now asked. And the way he asks his question or the way he makes this request is a little interesting and also very, I would say, there is a lesson also for aspiring disciples or people who are students of Vedic knowledge and so on. There is some indication, there is some learning also hidden the way he asked this question. So the how he is asking this question, he's saying, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you. So he has given a long list of questions. We just now read that list for you. So he's asking that please kindly answer all that what I have inquired from you, and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. So this second part is very interesting and very educative. And all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. So sometimes in the interactions between the student and the teacher, the student has doubts and the student asks those doubts to the teacher. and teacher appreciates the doubt of the student. Teacher would like to enlighten the student about the doubts and so on, and would like to educate the student on whatever he doesn't know. But that is something which I would say is a normal category student. But a little more advanced category student is that who is really very inquisitive, and he understands that he has some doubts and that he would really politely would like to ask from his teacher, but he also understand that there might be some doubts or there might be some topics or some subject matter which I may not have doubt, which I may not understand, and but that are also very important for me to understand. So a really very sincere and advanced student, inquisitive student, enthusiastic student would like to learn from his teacher each and everything, and that is what is reflected here. So he's asking Shukdev Goswami that please explain to whatever I have asked and whatever I may not have asked, but you might think is important for me to learn, for me to understand. So kindly explain it to me, my dear sir. I'm a surrendered soul unto you. Since I'm a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. And we see the similar spirit in Srimad Bhagavad Gita also when Arjuna is requesting Lord Sri Krishna. So if you reflect upon that verse, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava, which appears in the seventh shloka of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So here that question the Arjuna asks is, kindly tell me what is best for me. Kindly explain me what is best for me. I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Yat shreya syan nishchitam bruhi tanme. Yat shreya syan nishchitam bruhi tanme. So he said that please decisively tell to me what is best for me, as I am a soul surrender unto you. So he's not presenting a specific question, but he's asking his teacher, please explain to me what is best for me. Now, this reflects a lot of faith of the student in the teacher. A lot of faith of the student in the teacher. Why? Because he has this confidence that my teacher knows about me what is best for me, and that is why he's presenting the question in this form, that please explain to me whatever I have already asked, and also explain that to me what I have not asked, but it is essential for me to know, it is beneficial for me to know. If you think so, kindly explain each and everything to me. So this is should be the spirit of inquiry among a very sincere soul, very sincere devotee of Vedic knowledge. So that is something which is very enlightening in this particular verse. So the way they are asking questions is also very educative for us. Now we move to the next verse. Mataji, kindly read.
O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators.
Hmm. Here he is glorifying Shukdev Goswami, and he's differentiating between two different type of gurus or two different type of spiritualists. One is spiritualist, he's saying that you are as good as Brahma. You are as good as Brahma. Now, how Brahma comes into picture? Because Shukdev Goswami is actually in the disciplic succession, which is coming from Brahmaji. How it is coming from Brahmaji? So Brahmaji is the first living entity who gets this spiritual knowledge directly from the Lord himself. So Lord imparted this knowledge, Vedic knowledge, to Lord Brahma. From Lord Brahma, this Vedic knowledge was imparted to whom? To Narad Muni. From Narad Muni, this knowledge was given to whom? To Vyasadev. And from Vyasadev, this knowledge was given to his son Shukdev Goswami. So Shukdev Goswami is learning this knowledge in the disciplic chain of succession, starting directly from Lord Shri Krishna. So he's saying, "O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators. As followed by the previous philosophical speculators." Now, in order to explain this point, this is the second category of teachers, which may be also having maybe parampara system. Maybe they may have their own parampara. Maybe they are teaching their students are teaching their students, and their two students are teaching their students. So maybe there is a parampara, but there is a difference. Now, these people who are trying to understand and interpret things according to their own understanding, according to their own philosophical paths. And example of these is several philosophers that are there, like for example, Gautama, Kanada, Gemini, Kapila, Ashtavakra, Patanjali, and so on. So all of these philosophical teachers in the past, they have their own philosophical paths, and their philosophical paths are actually based upon their own viewpoint, where they have interpreted Vedas in a particular way. And because they have interpreted Vedas in their particular way, they have highlighted one particular aspect of the Vedas more compared to the other aspect. And that is why they are known for their own path, their own viewpoint. But the differentiation or the difference between these kind of philosophers and Shukdev Goswami is that Shukdev Goswami is speaking something which has directly received from the Lord himself. But these other philosophers are actually not presenting something which is directly received from the Lord himself. They are interpreting these books in their own way and then presenting it to and teaching them to various people at large. And that's how they are creating their own disciplic line. But that disciplic line is unauthorized. Unauthorized in the sense because it is not directly related to the Lord himself. That is how it is unauthorized. However, Shukdev Goswami's disciplic succession is authorized because it is directly coming from the Lord himself. And that is where he is quoting here, O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators. Speculators. The word speculators is important here. Other philosophical previous speculators. So that is not authorized, but this whatever you are going to speak is authorized because it is directly connected with the Lord himself. Okay, we go to the next words. Mataji, please read.
Oh Lord Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting.
So here you can see in these words the enthusiasm of Parikshit Maharaj, and how his enthusiasm reflects that he is relishing, he is enjoying the narrations by Shukdev Goswami. And that is the kind of a symptom of a devotee. A devotee, how do you identify that this person is a devotee? You can identify a person to be a devotee by the kind of satisfaction, by the kind of enjoyment, by the kind of relish he experiences when he hears Hari Katha. So you would find that many times people are really, really very eager to hear Hari Katha. And sometimes when we have a great speaker, when we have a very realized soul, a self-realized soul, a self-realized devotee, a good sannyasi, a elevated devotee who is presenting this Hari Katha, then the enthusiasm and the anticipation for that satisfaction by hearing Hari Katha becomes even more greater. And how much Parikshit Maharaj would feel that satisfaction or anticipate that satisfaction because he is hearing it from none other than Shukdev Goswami. And Shukdev Goswami is not an ordinary personality. He is, as I mentioned, is a disciple of Vyasadev, and Vyasadev is a disciple of Narad Muni, and such a great lineage of gurus he's related to. So that is why he's saying that, O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of message of the infallible personality of Godhead. So when a self-realized soul speaks from his heart, his speech is filled with love of God. His speech is filled with truth, absolute truth. His speech is filled with the divine message of Lord Krishna. And as the message of Lord Krishna is non-different from Krishna himself, the impact that it creates on the heart of the hearer is tremendous, is divine, is very uplifting, is very elevating, is very purifying. And because the impact is very, very purifying, the living entity, the hearer of the Harikatha, feels lot of satisfaction, lot of satisfaction. And in that feeling of satisfaction, the hearer actually forgets. He forgets that maybe he has not drunk anything for several weeks, or maybe he has not eaten any food, and so on. The satisfaction of hearing Harikatha is so great that he forgets his hunger, his thirst, etc., etc. So that is what he's experiencing here, and he's sharing his experience with his guru, with his teacher, Shukdev Goswami. He's saying that because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches. So the Harikatha is compared with a nectar here. Nectar means Amrit. Amrit means which makes somebody as maybe immortal and so on. And it is very satisfying, very tasty, very relishable, uh, and which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches. I do not feel any sort of exhaustion. I do not feel any boredom, any exhaustion, any tiredness, any dissatisfaction, uh, because of my fasting. Because Parikshit Maharaj, what fasting until 10th, after that curse by the Brahmana boy that a Takshaka bird is going to bite you at the end of 7 days, he sat on complete fasting. So because of fasting, he said that he is not feeling any pangs of hunger or anxiety or thirst, etc. Because he's feeling satisfaction other places. It is something like higher taste. Because of higher taste, he has left any attachment to a lower taste. Okay. 27th Mataji, please read.
Sutta Goswami said, thus Sukadev Goswami, being invited by Maharaja Parikshit to speak on topics of the Lord Sri Krishna with the devotees, was very much pleased.
Now, why would Shukdev Goswami be very pleased? Shukdev Goswami understood that he has a great audience. Like, for example, if a singer is singing something, and in the audience there is somebody who knows how to sing, who understands the science of music, and so on, and the singer himself is a great musician, and so on. So he would really be very pleased to have that kind of an audience, because he knows that whatever hard work, whatever sadhana he has put in understanding that knowledge of music, and the presentation he is going to make in the audience today, that will be the nuances of that presentation will really be understood by somebody who is learned in that art. So if he is going to sing to somebody, or to an audience who is not very much knowledgeable about the science of music, the people may not really appreciate the kind of nuances he will bring out in his presentation of music, etc. So Shukdev Goswami is very, very pleased. Why? Because he understands that he has real devotee in front of him, to him he is going to speak, and he will really understand what I'm going to speak. He will really relish. He will really feel satisfied, overjoyed with the Harikatha that I'm going to present to him, like that. So that is the reason why Shukdev Goswami is very, very pleased. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport also talks about Shankaracharya ji. Yeah. And in the context he's talking about Shankaracharya ji is that although Shankaracharya ji understood that Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, but still in his Srimad Bhagavad Gita commentary, after explaining Lord Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead, still presents impersonalist commentary, that the absolute truth is impersonal in nature. But however, Shankaracharya did not present any commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, because he knew that in Srimad Bhagavatam it will not be possible for him to present a impersonalist philosophy, because Srimad Bhagavatam is so much filled with the personality aspects of the Lord, that Shankaracharya could not think of presenting Srimad Bhagavatam or commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. That is something which is presenting. He's giving an example that how the personal aspect of Srimad of Lord Sri Krishna is so satisfying to hear, that Shukdev Goswami, or sorry, Parikshit Maharaj has forgot his thirst, his anger, his hunger, and so on. and his teacher Sukdev Goswami is very pleased to very pleased with Parikshit Maharaj's behavior. Okay, now we go to the 28th verse.
Sukadev then speaks Bhagavatam. He began to reply to the inquiries of Maharaja Parikshit by saying that the science of the personality of Godhead was spoken first by the Lord himself to Brahma when he was first born. Srimad Bhagavatam is a supplementary Vedic literature and it is just in pursuance of the Vedas.
It is just in pursuance of the Vedas. So now Shukdev has understood the intent of Parikshit, his student, and he's very pleased. It is the scene is set now for a great conversation between the two great devotees. One devotee is very much learned in speaking of Bhagavatam, and one devotee is really very enthusiastic and eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So a great stage is set up now. And in the verse, it is mentioned that Srimad Bhagavatam is a supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in pursuance of the Vedas. And we have recently studied this chapter. What chapter? Purush Sukta confirmed. So do you remember which chapter was that? Sixth chapter of the second canto. Purush Sukta confirmed. And in that chapter, we elaborately discuss this point. That whatever is mentioned in the sixth chapter of the second canto, many verses are resembling a lot, closely resembling those Purush Sukta hymns which are found in the Rig Veda. So some philosophers think that these Puranas, these books like Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas are actually not part of the Vedic literature. They think that only Shruti scripture, like the Vedas, they are only part of the Vedic literature, but these other Shruti scriptures like Puranas and so on, they are not part of Vedic literature. But in the sixth chapter of the second canto, it is Prabhupada have titled that as Purush Sukta confirmed. So that Purush Sukta, which is found in Rig Veda, is also seen in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is why it is mentioned that it is just in pursuance of the Vedas. And if you look at the Sanskrit of this verse, there is a word appeared called Brahma Sammitam. Brahma means actually Vedas. Sammitam means in line with the Vedas. So in pursuance of the Vedas, in confirmation with the Vedas, like that. So Shukdev Goswami then speaks Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in the pursuance of the Vedas. So that is the 28th verse. And now 29th, which is the concluding verse of the 8th chapter. Please read, Mataji.
Sukadeva prepared himself to speak. He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaja Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person.
Now, this is a concluding verse, nothing much to elaborate on this verse. It is kind of concluding the chapter, which is saying that Shukdev Goswami is now preparing himself to speak, because Parikshit Maharaj had asked a long list of questions, and Shukdev is trying to reflect upon those questions and preparing himself to speak, maybe question by question or item by item. He is going to answer Parikshit Maharaj, and all that discussion is going to be the part of Srimad Bhagavatam, the remaining Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is going to be the part of that conversation. So with that, we conclude the 8th chapter, where primarily a series of questions have been asked, and Shukdev Goswami is now preparing himself to answer those questions. Now, in the 9th chapter, it's a very important chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you might have heard about the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Chatushloki Bhagavatam means, like we have Chatushloki Gita, where the whole message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita can be summarized in 4 principal verses. That is called Chatushloki Gita. Similarly, the whole message of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, can be summarized in these 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, which appear in the 9th chapter of the second canto. So today we are not going to discuss those Chatushloki Bhagavatam, but probably we might discuss in the next class or next to next class. But in today's class, what we are going to discuss is the first two questions that have been asked by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukdev Goswami. So we will once again show you those two questions, and we'll see how that have been answered by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So here he's answering these questions by citing Lord's version. So he will once again quote discussion between Brahmaji and the Supreme Lord. So in the previous chapter, we had seen the conversation between Brahmaji and Narad Muni. Now in this chapter, you will see the conversation between Brahmaji and the Supreme Lord himself, where you will find that how Supreme Lord Krishna will impart knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to Brahmaji, and that is the subject matter of Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So let us first of all have a little reflection on the various themes that appear in this chapter. So in the first three verses, Shukdev Goswami will provide answer to question number 1. So what was question number 1? Question number 1 was that Jiva also has a body. Jiva is spiritual in nature, but it has a material body. So can you please explain how it is done, how it is made possible? What is the cause of that? So Jiva having a material body, that is the question number 1 that was asked by Parikshit in the previous chapter. Shukdev is going to answer that question. And then verse number 4 to 8, setting the platform for Brahma Lord conversation. So you will see that how it will also this section, actually the question verse number 4 will also answer question number 2, and it will also further describe how it all started, the conversation between Brahmaji and Lord, how it all started, how Brahmaji, when he took birth on the lotus, he found nothing all around him, and then he became very curious about it, and then he tried to trace the source of that lotus by going down the stem and all that. And then while he's going down the stem, then he kind of tried to locate from where this lotus is coming from. He could not find it anywhere, and then he hears few things that makes him uh, encouraged to do some austerity, do some tapasya, and so on. So all that story we will see in these series of verse starting from 4 to 8. So that will set the platform of conversation between Brahmaji and Lord Krishna. So let us begin that journey now. Entering into chapter number 9, the very first verse, and we'll go back to Charumati Mataji for reading the text.
Answer to Parikshit's question number 1. Relationship of Jiva and body unreal. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O King, unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul in pure consciousness with the material body. That relationship is like a dreamer seeing his own body working.
Okay. Now, what was the question number 1? I will revise it for you. Question number 1 was, how did the Jiva, who is spiritual, attain a body which is material? So Jiva is spiritual, but the body that he receives is material. Is it by chance, or is there any cause behind it? So how come a spiritual Jiva has a material body? Please, can you explain the reason behind it? So Shukdev Goswami starts to answer that question in this very first verse. So first of all, he says that relationship between the Jiva and the body, the spiritual Jiva and the material body that he has, that relationship actually is very unreal. Unreal means that has no permanent basis, that is actually kind of a temporary relationship. That is how he's trying to answer. And how does he say? Unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul in pure consciousness with the material body. So what he's trying to say is, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul and the material body. So that means what he's trying to say is that relationship between the Jiva and the body is unreal. that is kind of a temporary relationship, that is not a very realistic relationship, that is something which is kind of based on some kind of a falsity, that is something which is mithya. And as an example to prove his point, to explain to Parikshit Maharaj, he gives one analogy. He's saying that relationship is just like a dreamer seeing his own body working. That is, relationship is just like a dreamer seeing his own body working. Now, what happens in a dream? In a dream, the dreamer might become many characters. For example, a dreamer in his dream might think that he is an actor, or he might think that he is a cricketer, or he might think that he is a prime minister, or he might think that he's a female, he's a male, he's a tiger, he's a, I mean, whatnot. In that dream, he might think of multiple things that you can maybe probably conceive of. Now, the dreamer might, in reality, might be a beggar, but he might think himself as a king, as a very rich person. So, what kind of a relationship is this? Is this a realistic relationship? Is this something which is of any value? So, the answer is no. This kind of a dream, the relationship that a dreamer sees with his body in his dream is completely unreal. It is not true. It is actually false. It is, in Sanskrit, we may call it, it is mithya. It has no basis. Similarly, uh, Shukdev Goswami is trying to answer Parikshit Maharaj by saying that actually that relationship between the jiva and the material body is unreal. It has no specific meaning. It has no specific basis. It is unreal. So that is how he starts to answer that question. And then he continues to respond to that question in the next verse, where he is saying, Mataji, please read.
The illusion living entity appears in so many forms offered by the Maya of the Lord. While enjoying in the modes of material nature, the engaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine.
Now, why the living entity becomes bewildered? The answer is here. So, what was the question? The question was, how did the spiritual jiva acquires material body? What is the cause behind it? What is the cause behind it? And the cause is answered in this verse. That cause is the Maya of the Lord. The Maya of the Lord is the illusory energy of the Lord. Illusory energy means it puts the jiva into some kind of an illusion, which kind of distracts the jiva from understanding his true identity as spiritual, and he starts to identify himself with the material body. And what happens when he starts to identify with this material body? He gets into this misconception of I and mine. He starts to relate everything around him with respect to his body. If he is born in India, he will think he's Indian. If he is born as a male, he will think he's male. If he's born as maybe and has acquired some education of engineering or accountancy, he will think maybe he's an engineer, he's an accountant, he's this, he's that, and so on. So many misconceptions he will kind of assume just because of the body and just because of the illusory potency of the Lord, which is called Maya. So the illusion living entity appears in so many different forms, appear offered by the Maya of the Lord. While enjoying in the modes of material nature, the encaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine. And these conceptions are actually misconceptions. They are not real. How they are not real? Because at the time of death, when the body is gone, then uh, everything that he has acquired with that body, maybe all that property, that wealth, that creation, all is gone. He doesn't take all that wealth with him. Similarly, all the relationship that he builds around that body, maybe he has a wife, maybe he has children, maybe he has parents. Now, all those relationships are mainly based upon that body at the bodily platform. So at the time of death, everything is gone. So all that is unreal. In reality, all that relationship that he has, all that wealth that he has acquired is unreal. And that is again going back to that same analogy of the dream. uh, the dream means as long as he's sleeping, he's illusioned. He identifies himself as king, as prime minister, as cricketer, as actor, as dancer, as singer. But as long as the sleep is over, he comes back into his reality, all those roles are actually gone. So those are unreal. So similarly, because of the potency of Maya, because of the illusory energy of Maya, which manifests in different forms like different gunas. So these different gunas are like different colors. Huh? Different colors means with these gunas, the material nature creates different attractive illusions for him. Maybe different allurements for him. And because of those allurements, the jiva actually forgets that what is his real identity and kind of starts to relate to those allurements and kind of falls into the trap of Maya, identifying with I and mine. So that is how uh, this works. So that kind of answers the first question that Parikshit Maharaj had asked. How did the jiva, who is spiritual, attain a body which is material? Is it by chance, or is there any cause behind it? So the cause is the Maya energy of the Lord. The Maya potency of the Lord makes the jiva forget his true nature and starts to believe in his false nature, which is connected with the material nature. So that is the answer to the first question. Now going to the third part, third verse. Mataji. Okay, now we can actually request Vrindavaneshwari Mataji to read. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hmm.
Verse 3 becomes free of misconception by bhakti. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, that is, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self.
Hmm. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life. So, in the previous process, in the previous verse, uh, it is mentioned how the jiva becomes entangled into the material conception of life, and that is mainly because of the lot of allurements that are there around him because of the material nature. And how he can get freed from those allurements? He can get freed from those allurements by engaging into devotional service. And what happens in devotional service? In devotional service, the jiva comes to know that everything belongs to the Lord, and he is actually supposed to act in a way which is in favorable to the enjoyment of the Lord. So he need to act as a servant of the Lord, and the Lord actually is the master of each and everything. So that is what is being mentioned as constitutional glory. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy. So once he starts to behave in a proper way, that everything belongs to the Lord and he is simply a servant of the Lord working for his satisfaction, for his enjoyment, then he starts to get real happiness. He starts to get real uh, kind of freedom from all these material entanglements, and that is where he starts to realize that everything that is around him actually belongs to the Supreme Lord, and he becomes freed from the misconceptions of life, which is I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as pure self. So here it is being mentioned that how the jiva, the living entity who is actually spiritual in nature, becomes entangled in the material body because of the Maya energy of the Lord. And once the jiva takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by way of devotional service, he comes out from that entanglement and then becomes once again free, once again becomes pure. So this is the answer to question number 1 by Parikshit Maharaj, that how did the jiva who is spiritual attain a body which is material, and is it by chance or is there some cause behind it? So the cause behind it is Maya energy, and once the living entity takes shelter of the Lord, he can overcome that Maya energy. So that is the discussion here. Very similar to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. If you remember that verse in the 7th chapter, that Mama Maya Duruttaya mameva hi prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Very similar concept here. Okay, read the next one, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Lord gave his darshana to Brahma. O king, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with the Lord Brahma because of his non deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul.
Now here he is mentioning that the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave his darshan to Brahma. And how he gave this darshan to Brahma? Because Brahmaji performed devotional service. So the details of that, how the Brahmaji performed that devotional service, will be explained from 5th verse onwards. But the point is, by reciting or by telling this verse, Shukdev Goswami actually is trying to answer the second question which was posed by Parikshit Maharaj. What was the second question posed? Both the Lord and the common living entity assume bodies. You already mentioned that Lord has this body which is known as Virat Purusha, and the living entity also has a material body. Now, what is the specific difference between the Lord and the Jiva? That was the second question. And how this verse kind of answers that second question? This verse answers this second question by suggesting that the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. So here lies the answer. Before his eternal, presented his form, uh, transcendental and eternal form before Brahma. So here you can understand the difference. In the previous 3 verses, what did we discuss? How did the Jiva takes body? Jiva takes the body by the influence of Maya, and how he can overcome that body by taking shelter of Bhakti Yoga. So that is how the Jiva is taking body and getting freed from the bodily clutches. But here it is being mentioned here that the Lord, very much pleased by Lord Brahma because of his penance in Bhakti Yoga, because his tapasya in Bhakti Yoga, presented his transcendental form before Brahma. So the Lord is not dependent on the Maya potency. The Lord does not have to take a body. Lord is not bound to take a body. Lord actually appears out of his own sweet will. So that is where the difference between the body of the Lord and the body of the living entity has been explained here. So the specific difference is that Lord's body is manifested by his internal potency out of his own sweet will, but Jiva's body is mainly because of the Maya. Jiva has to take a body, but Lord appears out of his own sweet will. So that is what is being mentioned here. And the question number 2 is answered by Shukdev Goswami. Parikshit Maharaj asked, both the Lord and the common living entity assume bodies. What is the specific difference between the Lord and the Jiva? Lord comes in his body out of his own sweet will, but the Jiva is given a body by the arrangement of the material nature because of the external potency, because of the Maya Shakti of the Lord, and that is where the main difference lies. That is how the next question has been answered. Okay, go to the 5th one. Please read, Mataji.
Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seed, and while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction for such creative work, nor could he find out the process of such creation.
Now, as you see, we have changed the section now from the first section where Shukdev is answering the first question of Parikshit. Now, in the second section, in the 4th verse, we already discussed that he answered the question number 2. But from 5th verse onwards, the discussion has started where Shukdev Goswami is narrating what happened when Brahmaji took birth on that lotus. from the navel that came out from the navel of Lord Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. What happened after Lord Brahma took birth? What really happened? So he said that Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seat. So when Lord Brahma appeared on the lotus, he was very bewildered. He was kind of confused. He was very much perplexed. From where I have come? What is this lotus? Where this lotus actually lead to? From where this lotus is coming, and so on. And then he tried to locate the source of the stem of the lotus. And while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction for such creative work. So he was thinking that how he should start the creation, from where should he start the creation, where are the ingredients for the creation. He could not understand. Neither he could trace the source of his birth, nor he could understand that he has to create, but how should he start that creation. So what is the process of that creation? So he could not understand. He was very much bewildered when he took birth. So this is the kind of a prelude to understand the transcendental nature and the of the form of the Lord and the abode of the Lord. So in the later part of this chapter, there is a description about how the abode of the Lord is transcendental, how the form of the Lord is transcendental. So this is all starting of that story. This is kind of introducing that. This verse is introducing us to that story. It will ultimately lead to that story. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that nobody can understand the Lord by his own powers. By his own endeavor, nobody can understand the Lord. Lord can only be understood only when he is merciful. Although we have to do our endeavor, but besides our endeavor, unless and until the Lord imparts his mercy onto the devotee, nobody can understand the Lord. So similarly, in this case also, Brahmaji could only understand the Lord only because Lord was merciful upon Brahma. And why Lord became merciful upon Brahma? Because Brahmaji did the penance, did the tapasya. So here you can see here, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source. And while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction of such creative world, nor could he find the process of such creation. So in the next verse, you will see how Lord Brahma will now perform some austerity. So Brahmaji also, when he performed the austerity, austerity of bhakti towards the Supreme Lord, then only he was able to understand the Lord, and which will be evident in the next verse. So please read this.
While thus engaged in thinking in the water, Brahmaji heard twice from nearby two syllables joined together. One of the syllable was taken from the 16th and the other from the 21st of the Sparsha alphabets, and both joined to become the wealth of the renounced order of life.
So might be a little complicated to understand, but will make simplified for you. So as I was mentioning in the previous verse, Brahmaji is on the lotus. He's bewildered from what is the source of this lotus. He's bewildered how he can do the creation, what is he supposed to do and all that. He's kind of bewildered at the moment. And while he was thinking like this, he was already trying to locate the root of the lotus stem. And while locating the root of the lotus stem, probably he has entered into the Garbhodaka ocean. And that is what it is mentioned here. While thus engaged in thinking in the water. Now, what is this water? This is something, Garbhodaka ocean. While he was doing that, he heard something. What did he heard? Brahmaji heard twice from nearby two syllables joined together. So there were two syllables, two alphabets joined together. And what were those alphabets? One of the syllable was taken from the 16th and the other from the 21st of the Sparsha alphabets. Sparsha alphabets, and both join to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. In this Sanskrit verse, it is kind of in a little cryptic way, it is trying to give us a hint what was that what Brahmaji heard. Now, in order to understand what Brahmaji heard, we need to understand a little bit about uh, the Varnamala of the Sanskrit literature. One of the syllable was taken from the 16th and the other was taken from the 21st of the Sparsha alphabets. So what are those Sparsha alphabets? Now, if somebody knows the Varnamala, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga, Cha, Cha, Ja, Jha, Nya, Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na, Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na, and Pa, Pha, Ba, Bha, Ma. Pa, Pha, Ba, Bha, Ma. So these are called Sparsha alphabets. Sparsha alphabets means there is some kind of a connection or there is some kind of a sparsha in the mouth, in the region of the mouth, and that creates this sound. Like for example, Ka. So there is some sparsha inside your mouth, uh, so that this sound like Ka is coming, and then the Cha. So there is a sparsha between the tongue and the palate. Ta. There is a sparsha between the tip of the tongue and the palate. So the Ta is coming, and Ta. Ta means there's a sparsha between the tongue and the teeth, and pa means there's a sparsha between the two lips, like that. So these are categorized as sparsha alphabets. Now these sparsha alphabets are total 25. Ka, kha, ga, gha, anga, 5. Cha, cha, ja, jha, hya, another 5 means 10. Ta, tha, da, dha, na, another 5 means 15. And ta, tha, da, dha, na. So this is 20. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So which one is the 16th? Can you guess? Can you identify? Which one is the 16th?
Ta.
Ta. So the 16th syllable is ta. Ta means ta for tarbooj, like in Hindi we read. And then what is the 21st?
Pa.
So pa. So 21st is pa. So what did Brahmaji heard? What did Brahmaji heard?
Ta.
Ta,
Pa.
ta, pa. Joined together,
Pa.
what does it form? Ta, pa, what does it mean? Ta, pa, tap. Tapa, isn't it? Tapa means austerity. Tapa means tapasya, isn't it? So both joined together to become the wealth of renounced order of life. So what do a person in renounced order of life do?
He
Can you
does
guess?
tapasya.
He does tapasya. So this Sanskrit verse, the verse number 6 is some kind of a cryptic verse which tries to give you in a very poetic way what did actually Brahmaji heard. So Brahmaji heard the 16th syllable, the 21st syllable, the 16th is ta, the 21st is pa, so he heard tapa. And in order to make a confirmation that you really understood in the right way or you guessed the right word, the another hint is given here. Both join to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. So the wealth of renounced order of life is what? Tapasya. So Prabhupada ji take this opportunity to elaborate a little bit on this word tapasya. So he's saying that actually the ultimate purpose of human form of life is tapasya. The human form of life, what is one supposed to do? Tapasya. And how he should do that tapasya? He should do that tapasya by doing devotional service of the Lord. So is devotional service of the Lord tapasya? Yes, in a way, yes. Because by performing devotional service of the Lord, we kind of do or don't do many things. Like, for example, four regulative principles: not eating any meat, not any partaking any intoxication, not having any illicit relationship, not doing any gambling and all that. So all this kind of a tapasya. Then we need to do chanting of the holy names. We need to follow a certain regime of dincharya, etc., etc. We need to really acquire a lot of knowledge about bhakti literature like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavat, and so many other literature that Goswamis have left for us. So it is all tapasya. And Prabhupada ji takes this opportunity in the purport to tell that human form of life is actually meant for tapasya. and ultimate objective of this tapasya is to go back to home, go back to Godhead. So Brahmaji, when he heard this tapa, so at the beginning of creation itself, there is tapasya. The first living entity, Brahmaji, started his birth, started his life by doing tapasya. So in the next verse, you will find that Brahmaji, when he heard this word tapa, he started to notice from where this sound is coming, who is speaking this, and he was not able to find that. But despite the fact that he was not able to locate the source of that sound, he thought that it might be good intelligence to actually engage into that tapasya rather than thinking much about from where this tapasya message is coming. And he started to engage himself in tapasya, in the devotional service of the Lord. And by doing that tapasya, the Lord ultimately became pleased and gave his darshana to Brahmaji. So we will see that in the forthcoming verses. So please read number 7.
When he heard the sound, he tried to find the speaker, searching on all sides. But when he was unable to find anyone beside himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance as he was instructed.
So you can see this word is this verse is also very educative. And Prabhupada mentioned that in his purport. He says that Prabhupada mentions to achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma. Now here Lord Brahma is trying to locate the source of that sound. So similarly, people in this world also question literature like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and literature like maybe Srimad Bhagavatam and maybe other devotional literature. They question how do we know that this was spoken by Lord Krishna? How do we know that it is the original verses that were spoken by Lord Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra and so on? So they doubt. But Lord Brahma is not doubting here. Lord Brahma heard this word tapa, tapa, and he was bewildered. He was looking all around from where this is coming, but he kind of did not let his bewilderment overshadow him, overpower him. He thought that maybe the person who's speaking it, I should trust him. And then he, out of his trust, then he starts to take action upon what he has heard. And when he starts to do the penances, the exact thing that was requested from him by these words called tapa tapa, he started to execute that instruction, and then you will see that he was successful in executing his instruction because he got the darshan of the Lord. Similarly, we also need to have some degree of intelligence to understand that what are we being taught, what are we being mentioned by way of these books called Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We need to accept them on faith. And like Brahmaji accepted these words tapa tapa on faith. And while we act upon that instruction on faith, we start to see the benefit of that instruction. We start to see that our lives are getting transformed. We are becoming happier. We are becoming more peaceful. We are becoming more satisfied, contented from inside. And that is an indication that actually, whatever these teachings of Bhagavad Gita and other literature like Srimad Bhagavatam are presenting to us really works. And that should increase our faith and continue to make us more enthusiastic to act upon that message. So that is what we can learn from this verse, that Brahmaji did not doubt it. Rather, he acted upon what he heard and got the benefit of what he actually did the tapasya. He got the result of it. He got benefit out of it. So that is what we need to learn from this verse number 7. Okay, we need to go to the maybe this is okay. This is verse number 8. Maybe I got the number wrong here. I'll just correct it. This is the verse number 8. So Mataji, please read this verse also.
Yes. Brahma underwent penances. Lord Brahma underwent penances for 1,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. He heard this transcendental vibration from the sky, and he accepted it as divine. Thus, he controlled his mind and senses, and the penances he executed were a great lesson for the living entities. Thus, he is known as the greatest of all ascetics.
Hmm. Hmm. So Brahmaji did not doubt whatever he heard. He started performing the penances. Penances means the tapasya for 1,000 years by the calculations of the demigods. So here we are not talking about the 1,000 years as per the human calculation. We are talking about celestial years, which is as per the calculation of the demigods. So Prabhupada gives the calculation of those celestial in the purport. That is something like 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 earthly years. That is actually one celestial year is that many earthly years. So for 1,000 such celestial years, Brahmaji did that penance, did that austerity. Hmm. So he heard this transcendental vibration, which is tapa, tapa, tapa from the sky, and he accepted it as divine. So without seeing the Lord, he accepted his instructions. And for this, we need some spiritual intelligence. So when the message of Bhagavad Gita and all these literature is presented to us, you will see that many people don't accept it. But many people accept it, not only accept it, they actually make it as their life and soul. And how come that happens? Because these people have some subtle intelligence which empowers them to differentiate between what is really transcendental and what is actually mundane. That is the difference between people who are little spiritually advanced and which are not so spiritually elevated. So he heard this transcendental vibration from the sky and he accepted it as divine. Then, thus he controlled his mind and senses, and the penances he executed were a great lesson for the living entities. So, how did he control his mind and senses? By actually doing that tapasya. So, how do a devotee control his mind and senses? The devotee controls his mind and senses by doing devotional service. Devotional service means, like for example, somebody's spiritual master gives him uh, an instruction that you perform these festivals, or you translate this book, or you uh, organize this event, like that. So once the instruction is come from the spiritual master, the disciple becomes busy executing that instruction. And while he is busy executing that instruction, his minds and senses are controlled. He is given a direction. He knows that what he is supposed to do for next maybe 10 days or maybe 15 days or maybe for life and so on. The moment he gets that instruction, his life vision, his life path, his life purpose becomes very clear. And that is how he controls his mind and senses. He doesn't do anything else. That is his main objective of life. And that is what is being mentioned here. What is meant by controlling mind and senses means executing the order of spiritual master. Like Srila Prabhupada was given this order by his spiritual master, preach this message of Lord Chaitanya, preach this message of Bhakti Yoga in the English language. And that was his full life's mission. He wrote so many books, he printed so many books, he made so many disciples. To all his disciples, he gave this service, distribute these books. So like that. So that actually the mission or the order of spiritual master actually is the key for controlling of the mind and senses of the disciple. Thus, and that was the lesson for living entities. How is this a lesson? Even at the beginning of creation, the first living entity, the ultimate guru is actually Lord. But after the Lord, the guru in the form of a living entity, the ultimate guru is Lord Brahma only. So Lord Brahma, by his own example, is telling us that tapasya is the key for success. And because he performed that tapasya with all his heart and soul, he got this darshan of the Lord. And similarly, lies hope for us if we perform our tapasya, our devotional activities with all our mind and senses, all our heart and soul, we are also in the future can expect success in our spiritual life. So, like that, you can see how
No sound, Prabhuji.
I think there is internet issue and on his side. He'll return.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can.
Okay. So I think it was very timely. Just at the end of the class, my internet connection, I lost my connection. But now I'm back. Any questions or any discussions devotee would like to do?
I want to ask about today's second verse where we discussed that the literature that is coming from Lord Brahma, from Krishna to Brahma,
Hmm.
and I got the feeling that is the verse trying to say only this lineage is authentic and all other, like all other philosophies that have been authenticated, like six shadangas and all those things,
Yeah.
are they trying to say they are not authentic?
Yeah, that's what Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. If you read the purport, that's exactly what he's trying to say, that the other speculators or other philosophers have understood the Vedas and they have highlighted one aspect of the Veda. So, because they have highlighted one aspect of the Veda, they have kind of missed the ultimate message of the Veda. And like the philosophers like Gemini and the other examples are given there in the purport. So they are not kind of the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas. That is the message.
Okay. Thank you.
You can read the purport. It is quite specific and quite clear.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Ishwar Prabhuji. Yes.
I have a small question. Brahmaji was created by the sweet will of the Lord. What I understand is that he did penance or tapasya only after creation. So what made the Lord create Brahma? Was it just, it happened just like that, or because of some earlier tapasya or some special circumstances that Brahma was brought into being? So tapasya came later and his existence came earlier. That is what I am understanding from it. Or if I am wrong, kindly.
So, I mean, I can try to give some philosophical answer to that. See, as we can understand that Lord Brahma got busy in doing the creation of the universe. So after the universes were created, Mahavishnu enters into these universes and then fills up these universes with his sweat, which makes the Garbhotaka ocean. Then he lies in that ocean, and then from his navel, Lord Brahma appears. Now the secondary creation means the detailing. Like for example, I may purchase a flat, but in that flat I don't have any bed or any maybe almirah or any refrigerator, television, or any other equipment that is supposed to be required for any good living. So after I purchase a flat, I kind of detail, do the interior decoration, purchase few articles, dining table, chair, sofa, carpet, etc. So that is something what Lord Brahma is supposed to do. So why did Lord created Brahma? We can understand how Lord engages Brahma after he creates Brahma. So because he engages Brahma in the process of secondary creation, that is what I would understand that the Lord created Brahma for. And by this whole sequence of events, like after the Brahmaji was born on the lotus, immediately the Lord did not give any service to Lord Brahma. In order to become qualified for getting any service, Brahmaji actually had to do some tapasya. Similarly, we see in our lives also, when we take initiation from the spiritual master actually tests his disciple. How serious he is. And how does he test his seriousness? By gauging the depth and seriousness of his service attitude. So once the spiritual master understands the disciple actually seriously serving him, his mission, he understands that, okay, he's serious. And then maybe the spiritual master may kind of continue to depart or give him even more services. Personally, he will ask the disciple to do this or do that and so on. But the point is, only when we do our tapasya well in our spiritual life, we get the mercy of the Lord. Mercy of the Lord comes in the form of a specific service from the Lord. That is something which I can relate to whatever I have understood in this process of devotional service. This could be interpreted in that way also. Yeah, that is my kind of a philosophical or maybe a poetic interpretation of all what is going on.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question,
Yes.
Prabhuji.
Yes.
In the verse number, the text number 3, it is said that he becomes situated in this constitutional glory. What does the word constitutional glory means?
Constitutional means behaving in a way we are supposed to behave. Like, for example, we are citizens of this country called India, and this country is driven by a constitution. In that constitution, as a citizen of this country, we have certain rights and we have certain duties. So, if a person who is the citizen of this country perform his duties as per the constitution actually promises to protect that person. Do you agree? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Isn't it? So
Yes.
similarly, this whole universe is something like a big universe. This whole existence is something like a big universe, and this big universe also is driven by a constitution, and that constitution is written or is formed by the Supreme Lord. And according to that constitution, we are supposed to understand that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, and we are in this material world supposed to act only on those things which are given to us as part of our quota. Like in Shri Ishopanishad verse, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincham Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Grahat Kaschit Svidhanam. So if you read Shri Ishopanishad, this particular verse, which is Ishopanishad means Ishvara means the controller. And Ishopanishad specifically applies to the material creation. Material creation, if you see the picture of Ishopanishad, there is Lord Vishnu in that picture. So why not Lord Krishna, why Lord Vishnu? Because Lord Vishnu is actually the maintainer, he's the controller of all these material universes. He's a mainly when we talk about Lord Vishnu, we talk about Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu, and that is all these Purushavtaras, their manifestation, their appearance is mainly for the creation of this material world. So in this material world, everything belongs to the Lord. And since you have been studying Srimad Bhagavatam for maybe past few classes, you understand that all this creation is done by the Lord. Everything is done by the Lord. So it actually belongs to the Lord. Even the creation of the living entities, the senses, the sense organs, everything, the sense objects, everything actually has been created by the Lord. So ultimately, everything belongs to the Lord. But the living entities does not behave like that. And that is something which is unconstitutional. Unconstitutional. By reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand, by this whole process of creation, pastime, we understand that everything belongs to the Lord and has to be used in his service. If a living entity behaves in this way, he is behaving constitutionally. But if he is not behaving in that way, he is behaving unconstitutionally. So what happens is, when the living entity comes in this material world, he thinks that he is the creator, he is the master. He tries to enjoy this material world by becoming wealthy, by becoming more powerful, by becoming more rich in all these material resources. But after accumulating so much, at the end of the day, he realizes that he is not happy. He is not happy. He is not finding that satisfaction he anticipated that he will get by accumulating all this. And that's where he starts to think, what is wrong? Where I am not doing right? And that's where he starts to learn from Srimad Bhagavad Gita that actually you are behaving in a wrong way. You need to really behave constitutionally, and that constitutionally means Bhagavad Gita says that everything belongs to the Lord. That's what it means, constitutional glory.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? If no questions, then we kind of conclude our session today, and we will meet next Sunday with more of our classes on Srimad Bhagavatam. Till then, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Namaste.
Hare Krishna. Namaste.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Rakesh ji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.